At the shoot, I photographed everybody individually, but I knew that I wanted to combine all their heads together to make something that looks like this. To get this effect, I made a point of getting them to move their heads slightly to the left, to the left, to the left, every time I took a frame, and then to the right ever so slightly again to the right, just so I could get a full kind of spectrum of different head turns. Because in order to make a composition like this, the guys in the back have to be almost profiled to the camera, and then as the heads move toward the front, with the first singer here in the front, his head is directly straight facing the camera. This image here is the point that I want to get to before I do things like color grading and before I add a background to it. I want to arrange all the heads and get a nice composition first. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with one of the heads that I know is going to be in the back, and I'm just going to open it like this. First thing I'm going to do is grab the crop tool here and just expand the canvas. So this is going to give me a big area to work under. You can do this in lots of ways. I think there's even a tool called expand canvas, but this is just the way I like to do it, just because you can see exactly how much space you have to work with without guessing. Okay, so now just one at a time, I'm going to add the other heads to the shot by just clicking them, selecting the move tool or pressing V on the keyboard, and just dragging it over to that canvas. And I can position it kind of in place, nothing too perfect yet. Close that. Next guy here, he's going to be toward the end. Okay, close that. Next guy somewhere around there. Okay, close that. And then the guy in front, the singer, maybe just right there. Okay. I'll open up my layers menu and you can see how things are arranged now. Before I start masking away all that black, I want to make sure that things are properly aligned. So I want to make sure that I can see through these individual images. So through each one, I'm just going to turn the opacity down, maybe around, between 50 and 60%, just so I can kind of see through them, just to make my arrangement. And when I click on the layer of the head that I want to move, then I can keep that same move tool, just kind of place it where I think it's going to work good. I'll select all these four guys and they can move maybe around right there. Just fine tune things a little bit. The thing that I'm keeping in mind when I'm arranging them is their eye line. I think it's going to be more of an effective image if all their eyes are lined up on the same plane. But I also don't want the image to be perfectly straight, so I got kind of a little curve going on here, peeking toward the center. Now another thing I notice is that this guy's head here seems a little bit too small compared to the rest, and that's just the way I shot the picture. I probably took a step back or something like that. So that's really easy, just to make his head a little bit bigger so it fits in and blends together with the rest. I'm going to select his layer and go to Edit, Free Transform. And I'm going to hold shift so the aspect ratio of the image doesn't change. You just kind of make his head a little bit bigger there. And place it. Perfect. Again, just further fine tuning. The good thing about having things on different layers is even if you make a mistake, it doesn't matter because you can move things around later and readjust everything. Okay, so that's arranged pretty well, I think. So we're going to turn all the opacities back to 100% now. And I'm going to start the masking with this top layer here and make a layer mask. Okay, so now remember it, that means that anything that I paint with the black brush is going to expose the layer below it, which is this guy's head right here. So if I paint here, you're going to see through it. Aha, and there you go. Now I don't want to do all this by hand, so I'm going to use the selection techniques that I taught you earlier and just get the magic wand here. Select his picture layer and click. Okay, now notice when I click on the layer mask, and if I paint away around his ear, I still probably, yeah, I'm still getting one of those nasty edges. So the technique that I do to get rid of that is I can go to Select, Refine Edge, and play around with all these little tabs here. So you can see in this preview mode on black, it helps us get a good understanding of exactly how much skin we're going to be cutting off and how deep we're going to be diving into the area of his face. And the area that we're masking is a little bit smooth, it's a little bit out of focus, so we can turn the feathering up, which is going to make the edges softer just to blend it in a little bit. So I think that's going to work good, so hit OK. And I can click on the layer mask, and with the black brush now, I don't think I'm going to have that problem anymore with those nasty edges. Let's have a look. Yeah, perfect. Right now I've just switched to my graphics tablet pen because it's a little bit easier to mask things than instead of using a mouse. And remember that it doesn't really matter where I go over the edges too much, because you can see in the hair here how it looks fake. So if I just switch my brush color from black to white, I can go back over those edges and revisit them and make them better. Good, and I'm just going to work on the collar a little bit down here. To blend them together, it's obviously fake, it's obviously more of a mixed media type composition than a realistic composition, so the collar of the shirt can kind of blend together in a non-realistic way. Nobody will ever really notice or give much attention to it. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to move on to the other side of the face now, and we can see that it's this guy below him now on that same layer mask, because this is this black. So now on this layer mask, since this black area is part of this top image, anything that I paint with a black brush is going to expose through again. And I can use my magic wand, select the image, and then the black area. And if I hit select, refine edge, all my settings from the last time are going to be saved. So I can just hit OK. Then I can click the mask again and get the black brush. And anything that I paint now is going to have that really nice selection. Okay, I'm going to move on now to this layer, and I'm going to see what's underneath this guy. Okay. So I'm going to make another layer mask, but on his layer this time. And I'm going to select that black and use my refine edge that's already saved. And click on his layer mask, and with the black brush, anything that I paint now is going to expose beneath him. Right now I think his head looks a little weird there, sticking out behind his shoulder. So this isn't a real image, so I can kind of mess it up and make it not very realistic but a better image. So I'm going to actually make his neck come through here like that, and just this guy's collar only be there like that to blend things together a little more. This had a really jagged edge just because of his beard, kind of messed things up. So I'm going to go in here, zoom in real close, and fine tune it. One thing I like to do is get a really hard brush and go over an area, and then get the soft brush and go over that same area, just so the seams blend together a little better, but it still has that realistic looking hard edge, but it's not so hard that it looks cut out. It's really important to have good technique with your mouse or your pen. It's almost the same way as drawing. There's a lot of different ways you can use a real pen or pencil, and the way that you move it and the way you make selections. So it just takes a lot of trial and error just to get good with the pen. All right, very good. I think that looks good. Now, before I move on to the next step, remember that these are all in different layers. So if I wanted to fine tune things, I could. All I have to do is select a layer, go to the move tool, and look, I can move things around, and it's just like a puzzle almost that fits together. So floating heads, ooh, can do anything I want, really. All right, perfect. I'm going to move on to the next step.